waiting for the dramatic music. So let's talk a little bit about how global capital views Latin America. We've been chatting about this all morning. Do you believe that Latin America is entering a new era when it comes to how capital is viewing Latin America as a central growth destination, or are we past that already?
I can kick off. First of all, it's an honor to be here. I believe we have already passed that. When we look at what Latin America has achieved, and it's always good to take a long-term macro perspective, 50 years. I'll use Brazil as a proxy, but I think the rest of the region follows. When I was born in Brazil, it was a military dictatorship. Most of the economy was public. We had recurring currency crisis. And in 50 years, democracy, we solved inflation, privatized most of the sectors, telecom, mining, energy, banking, etc. And we've been able to build very deep capital markets. As we've seen the inflows of capital this year and last year, I think is a good proof.
Yeah. As we are seeing this year, we are seeing a massive inflow of capital to Brazil and for Latam. I think that the region is proving that we are nowadays in this mess that we are seeing around the world is almost a safe haven. We have a good natural resource that like you see in the presentation, a lot of renewable energy. We are the feeder of the world. We have a very, very technological agricultural sector. Our agriculture in Brazil, we grew in the last 20 years almost 8% per year, every year. So I think that in those days, what we are seeing is that what we are building in the last, like Francisco said, that in the last 50 years, at least 50 years, trying to keep the region more stable, democracies. We will have elections this year in Colombia, in Brazil, and I think that it's a huge opportunity to be in Latin America as an investor nowadays.
You mentioned a number of things that really makes Latin America a distinctly competitive destination for long-term capital. What could it become then in, say, 10 years, a dozen years, if you can scale those breakthroughs that have to happen, that maybe people haven't even thought about yet? Why don't you start us off, Francisco?
Perhaps just picking up on one of the points Norberto just raised, food systems. 50 years ago, Latin America was Brazil specifically, was a net importer of food. Today, Brazil, with a population of 220 million people, we provide calories and protein for over 1 billion people. And this has been exponential, 50-year consistent productivity growth in a very sustainable, not only economically, but also in environmental fashion, not going into the Amazon or any of the other characteristics. So that is the starting point. When we look at that starting point and going forward, and we see another point that Norberto emphasized, which is Brazil and Latin America becoming an epicenter of innovation, as we are in multiple categories, agriculture, financial, I believe that we will continue to position ourselves not only as a major provider of commodities, but also as a major epicenter for receiving investments in innovation.
It's a good point, Francisco, that what you will see, talking about my sector, specifically the beef sector, in the beginnings of 2000, we export 50,000 tons of beef to the world. This year, maybe we will do 5 million.
Wow.
It's impressive, and most part of that comes with the new technology, how we increase the productivity of the live cattle. And in agriculture, for example, what Francis said, we are capable to increase more than 2 times the land that we have for the agriculture, only putting more technology without cutting one single tree. So I think that, and all those productivity comes from the innovation, how we put technology, how we have very good people talent people. It's a huge opportunity to invest also in the region in terms of in education. We are talking about that.
Yeah, and just putting this in context, when we talk about global food security, agriculture is not only the most vulnerable side to climate change, but also to geopolitics. As we've seen over the last couple of weeks, how much nitrogen, urea is vulnerable to the Strait of Hormuz passage, right? So having a country like Brazil that has been able to have such significant growth, we quintupled production of soybean, doubling the area farmed, as Norberto pointed out, and maintaining this throughout the decades, and in a region that is extremely peaceful. We haven't had a conflict in Brazil for over 100 years. I think is a great pitch to attract capital. And on that note, I think the biggest vulnerability we have in expanding growth is human capital and infrastructure. So railways, riverways, ports, and we're seeing a surge in infrastructure investments going on across Brazil right now.
Let's talk a little bit about some of those obstacles, human capital and infrastructure. Why don't you lay out for us what some of those challenges are and how you could see them being overcome?
These two themes, we have a lot of things to do, a lot of things to develop. I think that's a good opportunity to invest in LatAm. It's not only in Brazil, but in all around LatAm, to help to develop all the infrastructure that we need to build. And in education, we have very good people in the region, but there is a lot of things to do also to learn with what happened in those 200 years here in US. So I think that it's a land of opportunity to, if you invest today, I think that for the next 10, 20, 30 years, I think that we will keep receiving the profits from those investments.
Yeah, on this point, I think what we're seeing in Brazil is that entrepreneurs are understanding that there's huge bottlenecks. Education is a key one. If you look at the Brazilian Stock Exchange and at the new startup activity, we see a surge of activity in private education. Entrepreneurs are seeing these huge bottlenecks that the government is not being able to deliver as opportunities to become entrepreneurs and to build businesses, solve these problems, and generate significant shareholder equity.
So are there, I would say, sort of headlines that you think people are getting wrong when they think about those markets at this moment?
Definitely. I think one characteristic that I think we have not been competent in Latin America to command the narrative is on the environmental front and the technological front. As Norberto very well pointed out, our expansion in commodity production has been driven by innovation, entrepreneurship, and private sector growth. Even Petrobras, which is partially state-owned, partially privately owned, is a benchmark of technology for deep soil, deep shore drilling of petroleum. So I think definitely the story that Brazil and the region is a benchmark in commodity, but also in innovation is something that has not been properly addressed.
As Richard pointed in the presentation, I think that FII is more to create impact than anything else. I think that we are in a very good time to create this impact in all the region. I think that we did homework during this last 40 years. I think it's in a good shape. We have good people, natural resources. I think that it's a matter of time that we I don't think that we will leave that to be developers countries, but we reach very, very close to the very rich nations in the world.
Yeah, Norberto pointed out about doing the homework. This is something that many times goes undetected. If you look at the region, you see that the homework institutionally is being done consistently over the past few decades. Get Brazil. It's just recent in the previous administration that we approved an independent central bank. And that has enabled the control of inflation, that has enabled credibility in credit markets to become much more widespread. This was something we didn't have in 2014-15 that led to the collapse of the economy and eventually the Dilma impeachment. And every time that we have one of these mistakes, there is institutional correction, the homework is done, the country evolves, and then we can move on to fix the next institutional challenge. But this is, I think, the key of a democracy. We fix things, and we move forward to the next problem. Even if it's not the speed we want, it's been continual progress.
There was a time when Latin America was sort of seen as the supplier of last resort. And I think many people would argue that that evolution has happened. But how long and how do you get to the strategic anchor of a global supply chain stability?
For sure, and I think this was proven in all of the recent disruptions. If we look at 2020, when we had the pandemic, Brazil hit records of exports of beef and soybean throughout the toughest months of the pandemic, showing that our supply chains are resilient even when we saw multiple others collapse. If you look at the 2023 onwards, when you had the Ukraine-Russia conflict, the same. Even though there were fertilizer and seed disruptions, Brazil continued to deliver on food security. So I think Brazil has had the privilege of being able to address and surpass every single global crisis, maintaining delivery of its core shipments.
I have a very answer for this question, very specific. What we are seeing today in the US is the shortest supply of beef ever. Even with the tariffs that we had, all the problems that we had last year, we found ways to keep exporting beef to US to keep the supply of the internal market, to keep giving the supply to the internal market of US. It's a way to how to control inflation, internal inflation, and I think that if you have more stability in terms of the geopolitics, in terms of tariffs, I think that we have everything, all the resource to keep being the safety haven of food supply for all the world.
You're mentioning a couple of things, but I'm curious if there's a longer list of the issues that are really constraints on the region from sort of getting to where you believe it could be. Maybe you should start us off.
Yeah, I mean, I would point out two that I think we mentioned, but I think are significant. One is infrastructure. 40% of Brazil's bumper harvest this year does not have warehousing capability. So, especially in a world where you have these kinds of disruptions, that's extremely dangerous, but it's a major opportunity for us to invest. And that has been one of the triggers of the recent Brazilian miracle of corn ethanol. Ethanol is a great way to warehouse corn, and this has been exploding, and it also ties in with our biofuel leadership. The other one, as Norberto very well pointed out, probably the most important and difficult to fix is human capital. Our education statistics, if you look at PISA scores and other metrics, are way below where our core competitors are. And again, this is something that I think is a major opportunity, especially with AI and other technologies, for us to invest in education and try to fix this gap as soon as possible.
Is there anything that you would add to that list?
Yes. I think that we are, as Francisco said, that if you have the right infrastructure, if you have the right geopolitics calm, have a world with a geopolitics more calm. I think that yes, we have a huge opportunity to become to keep being the best global player in food security and in technology also. There's something that Francisco said before, that what happens with central bank, with Dilma. I think as a developed country, there is always some noise, but you need to see this noise, but see, look for what will happen ahead. With the resources that you have, what you can keep doing. So always be noise, but we keep delivering what the growth, what we were able to do to deliver.
You both mentioned, oh, forgive me, and feel free to jump in with your answer as well. You both mentioned homework, and I'm just curious if you feel like the region has been applying, lessons learned over the past 50 years effectively.
Yes, and one specific achievement this year that is a major lesson learned, one consistent problem of Latin America has been protectionism. And after 30 years, in May, the EU-Mercosur agreement is coming into play, right? This is creating the largest free trade group market in the world, over 700 million consumers. I think this is a great example of picking up on a lesson learned, that protectionist economies are horrible for consumers. This encourages productivity. We have a free trade in negotiation agreement with Canada, which will be transformational for us as well. So I think that opening up and being able to have freer markets, picking up on the anti-protectionist agenda is a major lesson learned.
And I was born in a military, doing the homework. I was born in a military government in Brazil. Since then, we stabilized our democracy. We have direct elections for the last 35 years. We saw the government, presidents going out to the government. But I think the institutions in Brazil works. And it's not only in Brazil, in the region. We saw that in Uruguay. We are seeing that in Paraguay. It's doing an amazing job. Argentina is changing a lot. Colombia is doing okay. Venezuela is changing. Mexico is doing very well also. I think that all the region, we have noise, but I think that we are keeping delivering growth and resource for the world.
Our last question for you both. Is there one long-term bet in the region that you would make that people in this audience might say, oh, that's crazy?
Well, I'm going to do something that in Brazil you would normally be laughed out of the restaurant, the bar, wherever you make it, which is Argentina. Picking up on what Norberto said, what Milei has been able to achieve in 2 years of fiscal responsibility, the recent labor reform, starting to free flow to the peso, is transformational. And remember, just to give a statistic, Brazil has 220 million people and we never won a Nobel Prize. Argentina has 4 Nobel Prizes. They have an outstanding human capital base. The most valuable company in Latin America is Mercado Libre, Argentinian. The first 3 unicorns in Latin American history were Argentinian. An incredible country, having that economy becoming the well-deserved tiger that they should be based on their track record institutions, their long-term track record, not the recent track record, is a major transformational. And that is a bet that I am making and that I highly recommend people keep in the radar.
Well, and then one of the most valuable fintechs in the world is also just come from the region, from Brazil, from a Colombian guy, the Nubank. A bet that I think that there's so many opportunities around the region that infrastructure in Brazil, manufacturing in Paraguay, for example. Argentina, it's in an unbelievable moment now to invest there. I think that you need to be on the ground and look for so many opportunities in many sectors.
Excellent. Gentlemen, thank you very much, Norberto and Francisco. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.